So yesterday, I'm scrolling through our private Facebook support group and I stumbled across this comment. And it was kind of an old comment, but it got me thinking. So the comment basically says, I definitely don't want him back anymore. I just wanted some insight and opinions as to these messages. I have some thoughts, but looking for others. He says he doesn't care, but does he? So specifically, the line in the comment that stuck out to me was when this person who wanted advice on some messages says that her ex-boyfriend says that he doesn't care, and she's wondering what's going on. And this stuck out to me because it's actually one of the most common questions we get asked, me, Coach Anna, Coach Tyler, Coach Shauna, on a pretty much daily basis. Today, I'd actually like to show you that I think, in my opinion, that there are 3 core mechanisms that will make men act like they don't care after a breakup. So there's a lot to cover here. So let's buckle up. So the first core mechanism that I think causes men to act like they don't care about you after a breakup is something called the separation elation explanation. So we start first with what I think to be the most likely scenario for why you're probably reading or listening to this about why your ex-boyfriend is not caring about you or seems like he's just dropped you by the wayside. Now, I've stated in multiple articles, videos, podcast episodes on my website, YouTube channel, what have you, most of our clients have an anxious attachment style, while most of our clients' exes have avoidant attachment styles. And I've actually got proof of this. I've asked the people in our Facebook group, hey, what would you classify your ex as, like as an attachment style? And then I've asked them, what would you classify yourself as? And by far, most of our clients say that their exes are avoidant. And most of our clients admit that they are a little bit anxious, preoccupied, though a close second is actually secure, so that's good. But from what I've seen, it's hard to get that secure aspect. But anyways, where this becomes relevant to the discussion we're having here really revolves around the idea of an avoidant attachment style. So I'm the type of person that really loves simplifying things. And one of our very own coaches, Tyler Ramsey, taught me to, instead of getting wrapped up in all the nuances of attachment styles, it's actually best to simplify them by just looking at them from a core wound perspective. So he said basically that when you're dealing with something as complex as attachment styles, your best bet is to divide them up into core wounds. So the core wound is basically the thing that triggers the attachment style. So when we were conducting the polls earlier, most of our clients say they have an anxious attachment style, and most of their individual exes say they have an avoidant attachment styles. So from a core wound perspective, that's going to look something like this. So the anxious core wound is abandonment. So anything that causes a person to feel like they're going to be abandoned or there's a threat of abandonment will cause that person to react in ways to try to make that not come true. And obviously, when you're dealing with breakups, well, the abandonment core wound has just been blown open, and that's why so many people are on our website, on our YouTube channel, looking for ways to fix things or understand what went wrong. On the other hand, an avoidant core wound is a longing for independence, an insatiable need to protect independence. So a lot of times when an ex-boyfriend is acting like he doesn't care, it might not be that he didn't value your time together, which I think is the natural worry that most people have. It can make them feel like the time together with their ex meant nothing to them. I actually think you may be reacting to the fact that he's simply happy to get his independence back. So one possible explanation for this is actually a concept called separation elation, which I talk about in depth in articles. And to use a quote from freetoattach.com, probably the best avoidant resource online that I've found, after a relationship ends, people with an avoidant attachment style tend not to show much anxiety or distress, often feeling an initial sense of relief at the relinquishing of obligations and the sense that they are regaining their self-identity and not tending to initially miss their partner. This is separation elation, as the pressure to connect is gone. And as you can see, I've actually created an entire section in my avoidant death wheel explaining this concept. So I basically have this cycle, this wheel that has 8 stages. The idea is it's looking from an avoidant perspective and looking at what the breakup looks like from their perspective. You have stage 1, which is the avoidant wanting someone to love them. Stage 2 is they found you, they believe or convince themselves that their troubles are over. Stage 3, they start noticing some worrying things. Stage 4, those worrying things are enough to cause them to think of leaving. Stage 5, they actually leave the relationship. And stage 6 is they're really happy that they left. that is the separation elation period. Now, here's my point. One of the reasons that you may think your ex doesn't really care is because they're living off of the high of a separation elation period. So, and you add in the simple fact that you may be exhibiting anxious tendencies yourself, and you have sort of this cocktail for disaster. So as they pull away, you try to fix, you blame yourself, which in turn makes you appear more desperate and further pushes the ex away. And they get happy by the fact that they're independent again. They don't have to worry about sort of you in the context of the relationship. And it becomes this own unhealthy, self-fulfilling cycle of which you can't escape. And it's not that your ex doesn't care about you. In fact, if you actually take a longer look at sort of the death wheel I've just gone, I only went through 6 stages, but there's actually 2 other stages. After they're happy that they left, stage 7 starts, where they start to feel kind of lonely. And then stage 8, they start to say, why can't I ever find the right person? Which leads them back to stage 1. And either they repeat the entire process again with you or find someone else, and the wheel keeps spinning. No, what's interesting is after stage 6, the I'm so happy that I left, the separation elation period that you may be reacting to kind of wears off. And that's when loneliness and regret begins to kick in, unless they immediately try to distract themselves from that loneliness or regret by moving on with someone else. Now, I'm not saying every single ex-boyfriend is going to go through these exact steps. In fact, sometimes you'll get an ex that is actually authentic about not caring about you. Some exes are just jerks. But as a general rule, the wheel holds true. And that's only one of the 3 reasons for why I believe exes, or guys more specifically, will act like they don't care after breakup. The second reason is sort of the revenge plot. And this is interesting. So one of the stories I've told ad nauseum has to do with this idea of revenge in our private Facebook support group, which you can gain access to with our program. If you were wondering, kind of shameless pitch there, but hey, I had to do it. Anyways, one of our clients was in the midst of her no contact rule when her ex texted her a picture. Now, it's not out of the ordinary, perhaps. We have exes texting pictures to our clients all the time, but what was out of the ordinary was what was featured in this picture. Or perhaps a better way of putting it is who was featured in this picture. So this ex had texted a picture to our client in bed, naked, with another woman. Now, it was done out of spite, out of hate. The whole eye for an eye mentality. So what warranted such hate? Well, nothing. Our client hadn't cheated. She hadn't even broken up with him. Now, the only thing I could hang my cap on was the simple fact that we advised our client to engage in a no contact rule and ignore him. That was enough for him to grow angry and find a way to hurt her. This is all speculation on my part. And really, if you think about it, that's what the revenge plot is all about. It's an insatiable need to make the other person hurt for any hurt caused by the breakup. So in my opinion, they're kind of like 2 extremes to a revenge plot. They're the quiet extremes and the loud extremes. Now, the story I just told is sort of one end of the spectrum, sort of the loud extreme. Then, of course, is the quiet, the complete silence. So the loud extreme is in-your-face, obvious revenge attempts, intentionally trying to hurt your feelings. The quiet extreme is using passive aggressiveness, intentionally trying to hurt you by ignoring your existence. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people listening to this or reading this or watching this and thinking, well, wait, isn't the quiet revenge simply what we're doing with the no contact rule already? And to that, I would say not really, because with the no contact rule, the intention to reconnect is always there, especially if you are trying to recover your breakup. So after that period of silence is complete, you're going to reach out to your ex and begin that rekindling process. The quiet spectrum of revenge is a lot more passive aggressive. So it's doing their own no contact, sure, and sending specific messages via social media about how little you really meant to them. And it's a blatant attempt to hurt you, but not to your face. And perhaps the most interesting thing about the revenge plot is that it has its roots firmly placed in a philosophy, which just so happens to be the third core reason why I believe that guys will act like they don't care after a breakup, and that is the winning the breakup mentality. So for those of you who do not think this concept exists, I'd like to show you something. So there's this movie back in 2006 that starred Jennifer Aniston and I think Vince Vaughn, if memory serves me correct. Anyways, it's called The Breakup. Now, pretty much the entire premise of this movie revolves around winning the breakup. If you can prove to your ex-significant other that you're doing better after the decoupling period, then you are the winner. There's just one catch. You have to actually do better. And perhaps the greatest irony of the whole mentality is that someone who truly wins the breakup doesn't really even think about their ex anymore. They have too many great things in their life to be caught up in past loves. It's the whole Frank Sinatra quote personified. The best revenge in life is massive success. That's how you win a breakup. You don't rub it in your ex's face. You don't feel the need to prove that you are doing better. You don't want revenge. You simply have enough confidence with yourself to know that you're going to be okay. You find something else that you're passionate enough to pour your energy into that makes you the envy of not just your ex, but other potential suitors. But that's not how most people try to win the breakup. Nope. No, most people try to take the loud route, announcing how great they are on social media posts like this. This is a real post in our real Facebook group. Sometimes good things fall apart so better things can fall together. Marilyn Monroe, everyday power. So here's my general rule of thumb. The louder your ex barks about the breakup, the more they were impacted by it. Remember, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Final point here. So when I first started dating my wife, I could never understand why she had pictures of her previous exes still up on her social media. It just seems normal to kind of do the detox after you go through a breakup. And when we first started dating, was that like 8-9 years ago? It really bothered me, I'm not gonna lie. And perhaps that's because I do what I do all day, which is read about breakups or think about breakups and try not to think about breakups, but inevitably can't stop thinking about breakups. And I know what happens between individuals who used to be together. And it caused some fights, some friction between the two of us. It really wasn't until she made a point that I realized what someone who has moved on completely looks like. She said she hadn't removed the pictures because there were enough that it would take a few hours, and to her, it wasn't worth doing that. She didn't really care about them at all. It's better just to kind of forget them. All that mattered to her was looking forward. That's what someone who doesn't care looks like. They're indifferent to their past. Still though, me being me, I removed the pictures for her.